Well, welcome everybody, week 3. Great to have everybody back on board. Hope you enjoyed week 2 as much as we did. I think everyone would agree with 3 fantastic wines there. As always, a couple of introductions to make. I'm Luke, one of the senior wine brokers here. We've got Mark Faber, our head wine buyer. G'day, Mark.
How are we doing, everyone? Hope you're having as much fun as we have here.
And for wine number 2, we have a very special guest. I was actually reading an article in Decanter magazine by Jane Anson the other day, and she said, and I quote here, "Walking across Hermitage Hill with Nicolas Jaboulet is a bit like walking into Selfridges with the descendants of Harry Gordon Selfridge himself." So Nicolas is the 6th generation of one of the most famous winemaking names in the Northern Rhone. He's got a wealth of knowledge around the region, and it's really a privilege to have you on board tonight, Nicolas. So looking forward to your insights.
Thank you so much. Look forward as well.
Lovely. So unfortunately, no Alistair this evening. However, we do have Michael Morgan from United Cellars Exchange. I know Michael's got a huge amount of experience with the Rhone, and he will be presenting wine number 3, which is the Hereditaire Chateauneuf.
G'day guys, very much looking forward to it, and don't worry, I have done some very in-depth research and auditioning on the Rhone Valley wines, and I feel as though I'm well across them. So looking forward to drinking that this evening and taking you all through it.
Good man, good man. And then finally, the lady who keeps the wheels turning here with the tastings, Jane Moore. Jane's in charge of Facebook, the texting competition, and basically everything else. So welcome, Jane.
Evening, everyone.
Okay, so Mark, if you could just move us on one to the Frenchies slide. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you for everybody who purchased one of the Frenchies meal packs last week. Hope you're enjoying it. A special mention to Warwick and Shelley. Warwick, it's his birthday today, so hope you're enjoying your birthday meal, Warwick. Don't worry, we won't be singing happy birthday to you. We'll move on quickly. But look, we're running it again for next week, week number 4. So as always, I'll send an email out with the menu straight after the tasting. If it's something that you guys think you'd like to do, please just reply back with your order and we can get that going for you. So that's that. Now, moving on to the Wheel of Wine competition, what everybody's been waiting for. You can see it's all moving at the top of the leaderboard then. Well done to everybody who is on 10 in the Maillot Jaune. And as always, it's your chance to win your favorite wine this evening. So text in.
Pick up. Shit. Game. All
right. so text in. 1 incorrect answer gets you 1 entry. A correct answer gets you 3 entries. Obviously, at the end of the tasting, which is obviously next week, we'll be revealing the winner and the winner to the bonus prize. But it's important to text in this week because obviously we'll be spinning the Wheel of Wine and it's your chance to win your favourite of this evening. So good luck for that.
001.
Now, just we say it every week, it's probably getting a little bit boring, but we love hearing your feedback, love hearing your comments, love hearing your tasting notes. So feel free to unmute anytime. If not, use the comments box and we'll get everything answered to the experts as soon as we can. So that is all of that. Now, you may have seen it in the holding page. Mark, if you can move us on one there. Something quite exciting, actually. And it ties in quite nicely to this week. So whilst everybody is pouring wine number 1, which is the Provence Rosé, the Val d'Astaire, I'll just give it a quick introduction. We've got a container of French wine coming in, ready to be shipped on Monday. So aside from the Lévisons, which I know have been a favourite of lots of our customers over the years and years we've been doing them. I know Team Leg loves them. We've also got Domaine de la Jeunesse, Alain Jorme, and Domaine Brousset. Now, Mark, I know you're the man who basically is in charge of bringing these in. Any favourites of those? Anything interesting?
Oh, picking a favourite child there, mate. That's harsh. Now, look, I mean, each of these producers we have a lovely long relationship with. Domaine Brousset, one of one of the most incredible producers from Gigondas. So like the Châteauneuf, we're getting into Grenache territory there. Their vineyard site, I had the great pleasure of being on the vineyard site, which is a UNESCO World Heritage regions, protected regions, an incredible piece of land that they own. And we've brought in some special wines from that hillside. Domaine de la Janasse is a brand new producer for us, one of our key Châteauneuf du Pape producers. So looking very forward to sharing those wines with you guys. They've got a fantastic long history in the region. And Alain Jaume, the Jaume family are one of the most generous people we work with there, and they make some fantastic wines. I've got some great pictures of their vineyards as well in this presentation very here. Every time we go to the Rhone, Christophe actually puts us up in his own home when we go there. So they're just a fantastic group. And if anyone is going to the Rhone, I strongly encourage you to get in contact, because the Jaume family will probably put you up. They are just amazing people. So looking very forward to sharing these wines with you guys.
Beautiful. So yeah, if you're inspired by tonight's tasting and want to kind of delve deeper into the Rhone, we'd love to help you out. I'm happy to send you an email with the details of all of that container. So just to recap over last week, we first tasted the Trembach Riesling, then we moved into the vineyards of Meursault, and then finally we finished off in Beaujolais with a Jean-Paul Brun. So looking forward, 3 fantastic wines. Firstly, we go down to Provence with the Val d'Esther Rosé. We move into the Northern Rhone, into Saint-Joseph. And then finally, we finish off in Châteauneuf du Pape. So I'm sure everyone's itching to get going. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Mark.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luke. Thank you very much. Now, first of all, Alistair has asked me to pass on his apologies for not being able to be here. Unfortunately, he's attending a funeral today. So he was the one who was meant to be talking about this wine, because he was actually the one who introduced us to this wine. So apologies, his apologies to all of our lovely clients coming along tonight. However, I'm happy to take over the reins and talk about the lovely wines of Val d'Astière. So first, a quick comment on what we're doing here, just as an overall overarching comment. So as Luke said, last week we were kind of in the east, and it was kind of the northeast, I would say, through Alsace and then Burgundy and Beaujolais. And then the week before that, of course, we were up around Chablis and then up in Champagne. So regions that are dominated mainly by their colder temperatures. Now we move into the warmer temperatures. We move south. And as you can see, we're moving quite a distance south. And here is the temperature and the climate absolutely play a key role, but it's in the opposite direction. It's about warmth. This area is known for lovely, lovely summers. The place that we're visiting now, Val d'Astière in Provence, is a very, very popular region, especially the specific sub-region we're going to, which is Saint-Tropez, a very, very famous region for holiday getaways. So I'm just going to show you, there's a little map here. Here is where we're going to be visiting. In this small section of the map, this is where we're going to be going. So you see here, this is the Gulf of Saint-Tropez, and we are visiting this tiny little section just to the south of Saint-Tropez. That's where Bruno's vineyards are. And then, of course, we're going up towards the Northern Rhone, which is just up here, just south of Valence. And then we go down near Avignon, which is where the Châteauneuf du Pape region is. So there's a quick summary of where we're going tonight. So, Val d'Astière is a producer we were introduced to last year, only last year, not that long ago. And as I said, Alistair Cooper was the one who introduced us to Bruno and his son, who are the winemakers. And he introduced us to them because they live next door to where his parents live in Saint-Tropez, which is not an exaggeration. It's literally what happened. His parents have a holiday house. Alistair's parents have a holiday house in Saint-Tropez, and Bruno and his wife and his 2 kids live literally next door to them. So that they would get talking and start talking about wines, of course. And Ali tasted the wines about 8 or 9 years ago. So he's known these guys for a long time, and he introduced them to us and said, if you're after a Provence Rosé, which we were definitely looking for, we should definitely talk to Bruno about it. So that's why we got to talk to Bruno. And thank you, Luke. We're going to start the journey down to where we're going. So And we had the great pleasure last year of meeting Bruno, who's a fantastic guy, and going to the vineyards where he lives. Where he makes his wines, Val-d'Astier. And as I said, just south of the town of Saint-Tropez. So, what is it about Provence that is so significant? So, first of all, I might just say a few little quirky tales about Bruno. How such an interesting guy. He's originally from Central America. He's originally from Colombia, and he came to France on. He was doing a soccer scholarship, and played soccer for many years in the second league, and then decided to become a winemaker and met a French woman and married her, and now they live in the south of France. So he's a very interesting character. But so Bruno works this one little plot of land, and all of his wines come from this individual plot, this one section here. And the sub-region is within Provence is called Maures, Maures, and he's a very multilingual individual. He decided to call this wine One More, because that's what you feel like when you have a glass. You just feel like one more. So here, Luke, if you wouldn't mind just bringing up the image that I've got here. This was an image taken by me. This was literally me taking this photo last year of the vineyard. This was in March of last year. As you can see, the soil, that's Bruno himself, and you can see the soils, it looks pretty arid and pretty dry down there. And this is the first significant difference that you're going to find heading from north to south, is it's much drier. It's still quite hilly in this area, but the soils are much more dry, and the grape varieties, as a result, have to be much more different in order to deal with that more arid climate. You'll see, you see around this fantastic picture just here, which shows the vineyard. It doesn't have that same lush greenness that you see in a lot of the more northern regions. You think about those vineyards we saw in Alsace, the kind of rolling green hills. There's much less of that, and you see a lot of the trees you see around there, they're much scrubbier and much hardier. So that's a good reflection of how to shape these, how that climate shapes these wines. Get you all to obviously start trying these wines, of course. Now, Provence, the region of Provence the world over is, of course, absolutely so world famous now for producing dry rosé. It's now a very, very productive region of France. It's very famous, obviously, as I just said, but it produces some incredible variation of quality, but the style is always the same. It is always dry rosé. And in a place like Australia, that makes a whole lot of sense. We absolutely love it. Luke, there's an amazing picture that Luke's put up on your screen here. These are the different cuvées that Bruno and his son make from their home vineyard, and it actually shows you quite clearly these are each different grape varieties, and obviously these have not been settled or clarified, so you still see several of them are still quite cloudy, which is not how the wines turn out to be once they've been settled. But you can see here that the variation of the different colors, that's an indication of the different grape varieties. So I'm just going to grab the screen back off you, if that's all right, Luke, and I'll just show you. So this is just a quick summary, which is almost an entire page of the grape varieties that are found in Provence. So the whole region has a very blended history. So the rules of Barcelona, they took over that area for a while. The Kingdom of Burgundy from further in the north came down and took over the area for a while. And of course, the Holy Roman Empire through Italy had taken the area for quite a while. So throughout those constant takeovers, each of the conquerors brought with them local grape varieties, and each of them has found a home within this amazing region. So whilst we say Provence rosé is all a similar style, which it is, or dry rosé, the makeup of it is usually very, very, very diverse and can change in only a matter of kilometers from one place to another. So it's these guys that they grow. Bruno and his son grow a vast array of grape varieties, as you just saw from those bottle images. However, this one he tends to stick to the more classic grape varieties of Carignan, Cinsault, and a little bit of Grenache.
Mark, I just had a quick question come in while we're on the rosé. Is there a kind of classification system in Provence when it comes to rosé, or not really?
Fantastic question. Yes, there is. So it's still, in all honesty, it is still quite a fledgling system. What I mean by that is it's not on the same system as places like Burgundy or Bordeaux, where it was set in place 150, 160 years ago, as an example of Bordeaux, or even longer in Burgundy. There are sections of Provence that are classified as, they're kind of what you would call like a premier cru. They're recognized as higher quality as opposed to the AOC Provence larger region. However, I don't want to say it's a fine line, but it's not something that a lot of people know a lot about, and therefore it's not something that a lot of people focus a lot on. Having the so Bruno has put on his bottle one more to indicate the Moor region, which is classified as quite a high quality region within Provence. However, he's using it more as a kind of wordplay game, rather than using it as, well, you should know where Moor is, just as you should know where Pauillac is or where Gevrey-Chambertin is. So the answer is yes, there definitely is a classification system in there. However, it's not been established for a very long time, and therefore it's yet to actually gain much traction and to have people who will go out of their way to choose a specific wine because it is from a specific sub-region of Provence, if that makes sense.
Mark, I'm really keen to get people's thoughts on these wines. And again, we always have to pick on people to unmute and give us their tasting notes. Brad Bell, let's go for you. What I can see you guys drinking there quite nicely. What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, the verdict is everyone loves it. So
Excellent.
It's always a good start. yeah, very sort of subtle and goes down very nicely.
It's dry, but not too dry.
Yeah, it's got a bit of character, doesn't it? It's not too dry, and yeah.
So I'm just going to put it onto this next page here, where one thing that is very unique to Provence, and one thing that I have to mention when we're talking about the wines of Provence, is within the concept of terroir, there's this concept of garrigue. So when I smell this wine, I definitely get a hint of this garrigue, but I would encourage you to smell it and think about kind of dried lavender, dried oregano, dried flowers, things like that, because I get a lot of that within this wine, and I get a lot of that within a lot of Provençal wines. So a lot of people use the evidence that there are these wild resinous shrubs like rosemary. You know, when you touch rosemary, you can smell it on your hands for quite a while. It's got an oil on it. Juniper's the same, thyme, lavender, they're all the same. So there's the theory that there are these kind of small elements of this that you can almost smell on the grapes, and you can smell it in the wine. And that, it's very unique to Provence. You don't hear anything like that in Bordeaux or Burgundy or Alsace or anything like that. So it's very unique to Provence that you get this almost earthy, herbal character, but it's not from the soil, it's from the things that grow within the vineyards. Now, I've put another little question down here, if anyone's got any thoughts on, can you think of another example of that happening potentially a little bit closer to home? Because there's a very, very key example that I think of when I think of
I know
like that.
I already had my chance to talk, but up in our area in the Hunter Valley, there's some paddocks of vineyards that are close to the eucalypt forest, and you can pick up flavor of some of the red wines. And then obviously up here, just lost about the whole crop with smoke taint. So some, yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but that is a very, very clear example of the environment having a direct impact on the flavor of the wine, definitely. But that's more to a negative perspective.
Yeah,
anyone else? Anyone else want to have a think about? Here we go. Michael Morgan. Bing, 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 bing. Coonawarra. There's a lot of evidence showing that because of the thick eucalypt forests that surround the entire cigar-shaped region of Coonawarra, and because it is quite windy there, there's a theory that the eucalypt character, the oil, actually gets onto the vine and it gets into the wine. That's why you get that real minty eucalypt character in the wine. So, just wanted to give you guys a bit of a kind of a parallel in the wines that we drink in our everyday as to what might be going on in this little glass of rosé. So I hope you enjoy it.
So that was wine number one. Felt like it just flew by, but I'm really keen to get Nicolas's insights into wine number two. So before we just do that, we've got question number one for the text-in competition, and it's a good one. Which of these celebrities does not have a signature French rosé? So it's Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, Brangelina. Answer 2, John Malkovich. Answer 3, Kylie Minogue. Or answer 4, Drew Barrymore. Remember, always text in with 1, 2, 3, or 4 with your name, email, and answer, just so Jane can make sure we get everyone's answer right.
And that I give the right points to the right people.
So whilst you're pouring wine number 2, which is the San Josef, give that one a go, and we'll give you the answer in about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, Nick's just a quick commentary back. So Nick Reynolds has said that it might be Mog, which is material other than grape, that gets into the press when or into the picking bins when you're getting them off. That's exactly something that does definitely happen. In the Hunter, I don't know if you can say this is true or not. They're up in the Hunter. Sometimes you get a bit of snake, a bit of spider, some extra flavour.
Okay, so 10 more seconds. Get your answers in. I can see. I'm looking at Jane's inbox, and it's filling up pretty quickly.
I genuinely do not know the answer to this. You've really got me here, Luke.
Okay, so the big reveal. The answer is number 4, Drew Barrymore. So Drew Barrymore does own a rosé. However, it's made in Carmel Road Winery in California. Brad Pitt and Angelina own Chateau Miraval. John Malkovich, and I'm going to perhaps skew the pronunciation here, Nicolas, you can tell me, owns Le Cue de Lacoste, which is a rosé made in Lacoste, Vaucluse, up in the Rhône. And of course, Kylie has put her name to a Côtes de Provence rosé made by Chateau Angaldes. So yeah, it was Drew Barrymore. So congratulations to everybody who got those right.
Good. Okay, and now we will hand over to Nicolas. Over to you, my friend.
So thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to attend this tasting tonight. In fact, it's early morning for me, and not too early. I mean, you have to imagine in France, it's 11 today, and we are picking some grapes. It's the harvest time right now in the Rhône Valley. We are today picking some Crozes Hermitage grapes, and it's a pretty nice day, a little windy today. Therefore, I couldn't stay outside in the vineyards to make the presentation because the wind was pretty noisy. But that's the reason why I will be in my office to explain you this wine. Maybe to start, I mean, as you describe Provence, maybe I should start describing the Rhône. The Rhône is the second largest appellation in France after Bordeaux in terms of size, and the Rhône, in fact, is split between two regions. We have the Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone. And if you still have the map, the first map that you show, I mean, with the region of France, I mean, that can help, I mean, to introduce the Northern Rhone.
I'll just grab the screen back for a second.
Yeah. So just to give you some figures, I mean, the Northern Rhone, if you put together Crozes-Hermitage, Saint-Joseph, Côte-Rôtie, and Cornas, all the Northern Rhone is smaller than Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So when you speak about the Northern Rhone, where we are, Northern Rhone is extremely tiny, and we can nearly compare the size of our appellation, our cru, to Burgundy size. We are really facing very tiny appellation like Cornas, like Hermitage, which, for instance, Hermitage, the size of the appellation Hermitage that you can see here on the map is the size of Château de Beaucastel in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, nearly 120 hectares. So in Hermitage, I mean, we have 25 growers who share, I mean, the whole appellation. So the Northern Rhone is small. The Northern Rhone is influenced, in fact, in terms of climate, either by the Alps. So we have a kind of continental climate sometimes during the year because we have some fresh air which is carried from the Alps. Or sometimes we have south wind, and the south wind comes from the Mediterranean, and we have a Mediterranean weather. So it's really a mix of two different climates that we have in the Northern Rhone and that we have to deal with. The Northern Rhone, as you can see here just on the picture, is located on both sides of the river. So we have the Rhone River, who go north to south, and who jump into the Mediterranean Sea. And on both sides of the river, we have the cru of the Northern Rhone with Hermitage and Crozes-Hermitage on the left bank. But then we have Côte-Rôtie, Condrieu, Saint-Joseph, Cornas on the right bank of the river. And as you can see, most of our vineyards is on slopes, and it's pretty steep. It can be pretty much in altitude, up to 300 meters in altitude.
And Nicolas, just to show everybody, we've zoomed into a particular part of Saint-Joseph because this area right here is actually the vineyard that you guys are drinking the wine from. So it's important to just see that, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's the village behind is called Tournon, and Tournon is one of the historical village of the appellation Saint-Joseph. So, I mean, before really speaking about the wine, I would like also to give you a quick introduction about Les Alexandrins. So, Les Alexandrins, it's a domain that I started in 2009. In fact, my family used to own another domain called Paul Jaboulet-Aîné. So we used to own this domain for 6 generations, and we sold the domain in 2006. And after that, I started my own domain called Les Alexandrins with a partnership, which is the Perrin family from Château de Beaucastel. So we are partners into this domain. This domain, it's a 25 hectares domain now. We are having vineyards in Crozes-Hermitage, Saint-Joseph, now Condrieu, and we have also a small domain more in the south called Domaine de Brézem. It's 20 kilometers south of Valence. And we have a brand new winery in Tain-l'Hermitage, in my home village. In fact, it was the Jaboulet village where we all Paul Jaboulet-Aîné was located, and I'm very happy to be back in this village So we have a brand new cellar over there where we do the vinification of all our wines, either our estate, but also the grapes that we purchased.
Now, Nicolas, I was very, very fortunate to come and I actually had lunch with you at the domain last year. And
Yeah.
I remember saying to you, commenting as you showed me through this amazing, modern, beautiful vineyard, winemaking facility. As you can see here in this great photo, there's not that much oak. There was a lot more concrete and a lot of some egg as well, which was interesting.
So it's, oak, we use oak really for aging. We are not a cellar where we use oak for vinification. Syrah is a reductive grapes, and Syrah need to breath. So we use concrete, but we make a lot of remontage in order to bring oxygen to the wine. So for us, concrete is a very good material to run the Syrah grapes, and especially because we can easily control the temperature of vinification inside. And if the wine need to breath, then we just open the tank and we make a remontage easily. However, we use wood, we use barrique, or what we call demi-muid. It's a 500 liters barrique for élevage. We use barriques for vinification only for the whites. So the white Hermitage, the white Condrieu, the Gros Hermitage white are vinificated mostly in barriques. And as you have seen on the picture of the cellar, we also have eggs. We use eggs only for white. Concrete eggs tank is very useful because you have a natural pressure in the eggs who make a natural batonnage, in fact, in the egg. So the wine is you feed the wine with the lees, basically without doing anything. It's completely natural. Maybe a few words on Saint-Joseph, because you are drinking the Saint-Joseph. Saint-Joseph, it's the second largest appellation of Northern Rhone, so located on the right bank of the river. 85% of the appellation make red wines. The rest is white. And Saint-Joseph, that's the blue color that you can see. As you can see, it's a pretty long band of vineyards. Nearly it's 45 kilometers between the north of the appellation to the south. And our vineyards of Saint-Joseph is located in Tournon, so one of the three historic village of the appellation. The three villages were Tournon, Mauves. Mauves, for instance, you have a famous grower called Jean-Louis Chave in Mauves, and then Saint-Jean-de-Musol. So the three villages were the three historical villages, and from the 50s, and in the 70s, the appellation has grown up to the north and a little more south as well. The terroir of Saint-Joseph is, I bring you a piece of granite. So this is the style of soil that we have on the appellation of Saint-Joseph. And it's a terroir which is very interesting for Syrah because behind the granite, you always have a little humidity and fresher. And for us, it's interesting because the grapes of Syrah in Saint-Joseph never really suffered of heat or canicule. You always have, the roots can always feed themselves. And for instance, in 2020, which is a very warm vintage, we have picked the grapes of Crozes already because vineyards was suffering in the plain of Crozes. But Saint-Joseph, we will do it next week because the vineyard is absolutely gorgeous. The leaves are green because the roots have enough to feed in the soil. What is also interesting with the granite is the style that you have with the wine because it gives minerality to the wine. and the minerality, it's a sensation that you can have on your teeth, which is very nice, and its deepness in the wine. It makes the wine extremely concentrate, black. You can have a little kind of olives flavor, as you say, cassis flavor. I think it's a beautiful terroir for Syrah. So our Saint-Joseph, it's still a young vintage. I mean, it's really wine that you can keep easily. I mean, 5-10 years. Those wines are able to age, and it's a wine you will see. I mean, the wine will be a bit older, will change. I mean, aromatics, and you will get more some kind of mushrooms flavor, coffee flavor as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicolas. So I've just put up a little image here for those of you who've not tried Syrah, especially from the Northern Rhone here. Now, these are very, very broad brush strokes that I'm using here with the descriptions of these styles. But as a comparison to our local most grown grape variety in Australia, which is Shiraz, of course, it really is quite a different style. And I'm very, very keen to hear people's feedback, especially those Shiraz drinkers. So for me, I really get, as soon as Nicolas showed me that granite, it immediately speaks to me of that kind of stony, smoky, rocky soil that's in the area. It really does it really lives in the wine, that granitic kind of stony character, which we just do not get in Shiraz in Australia.
That's what gives it that kind of chalky character, isn't it, in the wine? It's sort of a... with the bracing acidity that you receive, because it's a little bit cooler up there, it kind of gives it a kind of chalky tannin character, I find, which is what I think means that these really pair so very well with all sorts of food as well.
Now, Nicolas, we had a quick question from someone who noticed the concrete egg in your winemaking facility there. What wine goes into the concrete egg?
We so far only the Gros Hermitage white.
Gros Hermitage white. Okay.
White. We only use it for the white wine. Some people do it for the reds. We have not tried, to be honest. We like the white wine to stay inside for this natural batonnage.
Yes.
Fantastic. Go on, Nicolas.
No, I think, I mean, it's that's something which could be interesting also for the red, but more in terms of élevage. What we are looking for, I mean, is really to age more and more the wine in concrete tanks. It really depends on which kind of wine you want to produce, but what we can see overall is that people are drinking the wine younger and younger, and you need to deliver a lot of fruit into the wine. And concrete tanks is extremely good materials to make this kind of wine.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's I really, Nicolas, I'd really love to get you in contact with one of our good mate winemakers, Peter Fraser, who he absolutely loves his concrete eggs, and he makes a lot of their Shiraz from the McLaren Vale in South Australia. Makes a lot of that in concrete, and I think he might convince you that a bit of Syrah can go a long way.
Yeah. When we will be allowed to travel again, I would love to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had a lot of comments on how well it pairs with food, actually, Nicolas. The pairing that we sent out, the beef cheeks, Shelley has told us that it complements very, very nicely. Just having a look at others in the gallery view there who are eating with their wine this evening. Let's pick on someone. Charles, what are your thoughts? How's it pairing with the, sorry to make you get up and have to unmute there. What are you eating with it?
Is he unmuting or running away?
Probably both.
This is one question I can answer though. We're
Go
having
on, Michael.
pancakes with it. It's
Pancakes.
duck pancakes.
Oh,
nice.
duck pancakes.
Very
Amazing.
Nice. Duck pancakes.
We are back. We are having
Yay.
With the rosé, we had some Japanese fried rice. Very light, worked very nice. It wasn't particularly spicy, so it was just right for the rosé. And with the red, we're having cheeses, beautiful bread,
beautiful smoked cheese.
Yum.
some pasticci. That's what we're having.
And
Amazing.
somebody posted the wine is well balanced. It's a great comment. I think it's fantastic.
We love it.
And Mark, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, and Nicholas, if you have experience with the cooler climate Australian Syrah. We've had a lot of comments saying, reminiscent of Mornington, Yarra, even the Clonakilla Shiraz Viognier. Mark, would you agree with that? That kind of cooler climate style of Australian Shiraz or Syrah?
Well, the first comment I would have to make is that this image here that I couldn't help myself but put up as an image that I took of Nicolas when he showed us around the Hill of Hermitage. The man on the right, of course, is Anthony Gaddis, who was surprisingly quiet here tonight, the owner of our company. And this is on the Hill of Hermitage. And this is legitimately where Tim Kirk, the owner and winemaker of Clonakilla, this is where he worked. So this is where he fell in love with Syrah and Shiraz Viognier and decided to make it in Canberra. So there is absolutely no shock in that comment that there is a similarity between the wines of the Northern Rhone and what Tim Kirk is trying to make at Clonakilla. I think you're looking at very different climates, obviously, but there are definite similarities. I definitely get a kind of, not necessarily a granitic, but I get more of an ironstone, earthy character in his Shiraz Viognier. And it's definitely that elevated acidity from the very, very cold nights that they get in Canberra there, and the kind of almost frosty temperatures they get. So I would definitely agree with that. More so than Mornington. Mornington being right on the water, it doesn't quite get those really cold nights. It's still quite temperate even in the cooler autumn months during harvest. So Mornington I find to be more. It's got more of a fleshy character to it and less of that earthy character. Yeah, that would be my comment.
Amazing. Now, being slightly conscious of time and knowing that Nicolas has to drive down to Chateauneuf in a second, I think we're just going to open up the floor and ask if there's any more questions that you'd like to direct to Nicolas, seeing as we have him here. Mark, perhaps you could move on to the quiz so we can get everyone moving forward. So get into the Chateauneuf to perhaps start pouring. And also you've got the question up there. I'm just going to read it to you and then we can open up the floor to Nicolas. So the question is quite simple. What are galets? Answer number 1, the name of Etienne Gougal's pack of pet poodles. Answer number 2, the name of the local breed of horses or horse used to plough the steep vineyards of Hermitage. Answer number 3, jackets that are put around the vines to protect them from the strong winds that blow through the Rhone. Or answer number 4, small rounded river stones found in the vineyards of the southern Rhone. So I'll let you guys ponder on that, and as always, get your text messages in. Are there any questions for Nicolas?
I don't think we've had anything through the chat here. But Nicolas, from a personal perspective, mate, it's been fantastic to have you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm very conscious of you are a very, very busy man, a very wanted man in your region, and I really, really appreciate your time today, this morning, your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, it's a real pleasure for me, especially we are all extremely frustrating not to be able to travel since few months now. So thank you, because I had the impression that I fly to Australia this morning. So I wish you a nice evening, and I will be happy to do it again sometimes later during the year.
hopefully we'll come for lunch next time, and I'll bring a bottle of Yangara Shiraz. You can see what the concrete does.
Great pleasure.
Brad.
Merci beaucoup, Nick.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Cheers. Yeah.
okay, so I think that's probably been about a minute, so we can unveil the answer, which is, of course, answer number 4, the small rounded river stones found in the vineyards of the Southern Rhone. Which
Luke, before we move on, I've got to say that answer 3 is that's a convincing little one in there. Jackets put around the vines. Oof.
Well, with my limited French knowledge, obviously gilet, I thought, yeah, could be.
Gilet, yep. No, I get that. It's good.
And I think, in a similar way to the Cameridian soil of found in Chablis, it leads us really nicely into Chateauneuf, because obviously these stones make a huge impact on the wine. And with that, I'm going to hand over to my fantastic colleague, Michael.
Thanks for that, Luke. How good was that last wine? Oh my goodness, I'm still just going on and on. But I am thrilled this evening to be taking us down the road into the Southern Rhone and to be talking about something that I think is a truly exceptional example, which is the Heredita Chateauneuf du Pape. Now, beg your pardon?
No different.
Speakers and headphones.
Yeah.
Oh, carry on, Michael.
All right. I'm pretty certain that most of you have probably heard of Chateauneuf du Pape before you came along this evening. But what I don't think everybody might know about the region is that it was actually the first appellation in all of France. So it's got a really, really rich backstory and a really rich history. In fact, as early as the 12th century, it used to be the summer home of the papacy. And it was because of this that it was Pope John the 22nd that actually built a medieval castle, which now still lies in ruins at the top of the top of Chateauneuf du Pape there. Now, this is a castle that has survived through many things that have happened in history. For centuries, it was used, once the papacy left that castle, it was used as a quarry for stones in order to build the buildings of the town. And then it survived a schism between the Catholic Church with the anti-Pope Clement VII, and in World War II it actually survived a bombing attempt by the Nazis where they planted dynamite and attempted to blow the entire thing up. And you'll see, I think Luke's probably going to show us some street view images of it. You'll see that there's bits that have been taken out of the castle all over the place. So it's because of this. It's because of this real investment that the Catholic Church and that the popes always put into the region that you'll notice that all of our Chateauneuf du Pape bottles that we get to drink, they all have what's called the papal tiara on them, which is where the cross keys sit embossed on the bottle. And the reason for this is that the region's just trying to pay homage to their history. And I always found that was quite fascinating myself. So it was often because of the papal promotion, because obviously when you're having your summer somewhere and that's where you have your holidays, you're usually having a great time. And so they were taking the wines back with them, and they were taking them when they would have meetings with royals and the like. And when they were doing that, it actually became one of the first wine regions in the world that was bottling their wines as opposed, I think it was Chateau La Neuf that was the first to really begin bottling their wines, as opposed to sending their wines all out everywhere in barrels. And I can say, as a man that has sold wine for the better part of 10 years, and my colleagues will probably agree, we're very glad that we don't have to sell wine in barrels anymore. And I'm sure that the warehouse staff are really happy they don't have to pack barrels onto trucks and send them out to our customers. But one of these issues, as I'm sure you're probably aware, is that over time, as the region grew to fame, there was also fraudulent practitioners that arose. And so to safeguard themselves from fraud and from all these con artists, over the the following centuries. In 1923, there was a staunch group of winemakers that began, after many years of lobbying, to try and protect the region. And in 1937, on May 15th, Châteauneuf-du-Pape became the first official winemaking AOC, or appellation, of France. So what I found really interesting about this story and that little bit of back history is that one of the most avid of these groups of winemakers was actually the winemakers from Cellier de Prince, who is the winery that makes our Hérédité Châteauneuf-du-Pape that we are tasting this evening. So what I think is great about this opportunity this evening to try this wine in particular is not only does it have that rich backstory, but it's the vintage we're looking at and it's the winemakers behind it. Now, you may have heard with Châteauneuf-du-Pape, this is a region where there is actually 13 different grape varieties that are legally allowed to be put into Châteauneuf-du-Pape and still have the name on the bottle and still have the papal tiara. I would go through all 13 of the names, but my French, as you can probably hear my accent, is not as good as our previous two presenters this evening. I can never get the Queensland drawl out of my accent. But despite all of these different grape varieties being legal and being able to be called Châteauneuf-du-Pape, they have focused in this wine on what is actually my favourite grape variety that's grown in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and that is Grenache. Now, I love Grenache because of the different characters that it can bring to a wine. You know, I've heard a couple of our customers this evening thus far have already talked about they were excited, they've drunk a bit of Châteauneuf-du-Pape before, and I think what I love about Grenache is that it is kind of one of the chameleons of the Southern Rhone. You can have really big, rich, powerful styles like those of Beaucastel, or you can have the really kind of, they're almost Pinot-esque because they're so pretty and they show so much dusty character. And that's like Chateau Rayas. So Chateau Rayas was one of the most famous producers in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and those wines have been made by a man named Philippe Cambie. Philippe Cambie, he is one of the most decorated winemakers on the planet. He's actually been awarded 100-point scores from Robert Parker 15 times. He was the International Winemaker of the Year in 2010. And he is also the consultant winemaker on our Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is terrific. And the Cellier de Prince's winemaker that works with him, his name is Thierry Fellet. So I really think that they've made an exceptional wine here. What you're looking at is a blend of 95% Grenache and 5% Mourvedre. What I find that this Grenache brings, as I mentioned before, is that there's kind of a dustiness, there's a vibrancy to it, and there's a lightness to the wine which it brings along, as well as a little bit of rustic character, which gives you that real old world feel to this wine. And I find that the Mourvedre, what it does is it just allows it to beef up and give it some juiciness, which I think is really important, especially if you're going to drink them a little bit young. Now, Philippe Cambie, when he was talking about the 2016 vintage, he said that it was one of his best ever vinified vintages. One of the top vintages in the last 30 years. He said that it outshone that of 2015, 2012, 2010, 07, 05. And it gave him, you know, flashbacks of the great 1990 vintage. Now, I could, you know, talk for days about how much I love the wine and what I actually taste in the wine. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't have your guys' palates. You know, we've all got different tastes in what we love, and I just really want to hear what everybody has to say about it. But what you'll notice is that with such a strong 2016 vintage, and with the Les Six Galets that they talk about, those Galets stones, those cause a lot of heat to really produce inside the vineyard, and it gives you a lot of rich and ripe flavors. But this is what I love about Grenache. You know, with so much heat in the vineyard and with such ripe and rich flavors, you would expect the wine to be really big and over the top and not to really have, I guess, kind of the lovely texture and the lovely balance that you see. But that's why I think Grenache is one of the great chameleon grapes and why it does so well in this wine, because it does balance very well. And I just wish that I was sitting here eating some food with it, because I know it'd be a great pairing. Mark, what do you think?
My first comment that I'll make, and I'm sure a few of you have picked up on it before, with all of the images that we've shown you over in Provence, when I showed the image of Bruno with the mountains in the background, and then of course with Nicolas at the top of Hermitage and the hills of Saint Joseph. It's all about slopes. It's all about being on a slope. Here, every image we've showed you is just flat. It is just absolutely dead flat. It's like a baking pan, and that's really what gives Châteauneuf its absolute, gives it its power. You can see here, this is an image, as I mentioned before, this is actually an image of a Châteauneuf du Pape vine from our friends at Alain Jaume. This I think it's about 75 years old, this vine. So the extreme heat, the vine age, the galerule, the stones that you see at the base gathering heat during the day to release during the night, all of these bring together that layered complexity that I get in this wine. Every time I go back to the glass, there's something different. At first it was very bright and kind of strawberry, then it gets more brooding, earthy, dusty, dried herbs as well. There's so much going on.
Now, I think it was Steve earlier in this evening. Stephen was telling us that he was really excited when he heard the name Rayas. What do you guys think of the wine?
Thank you, Luke. I just want to firstly thank Michael. I thought, Michael, your summary was pretty well spot on. Like you, I'm a lover of Grenache, and I think, to me, the best Châteauneufs use Grenache as a dominant grape. I'm also a lover of Mourvèdre, particularly in Bandol, where I think they do a really special job with Mourvèdre. But I think the way that this wine is blended between the Grenache and the Mourvèdre, it just sings. I mean, you get all that kind of flavour, and then you've got the kind of the Mourvèdre behind it, giving it that kind of richness, almost chocolate behind it. So I think it's an absolutely excellent wine. Thank you, and thank you, Michael, for your commentary.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think that was very apt. Well spoken. What about? Always like hearing from Peter in the events that I've attended. Peter, what do you think of the wine?
Hi everyone. Yeah, beautiful wine. I'd be interested to understand a bit more about the oak contribution.
So
okay,
that's something that I could probably give you a hand with, if that's all right with you, Mikey.
Yeah, jump on in.
Yeah, beautiful. So Châteauneuf has never really been a region that has favoured a lot of new oak. It's been almost the opposite of the Northern Rhone, where the Northern Rhone, Hermitage especially, would use a lot of new oak. You hear about the wines, the Lalandon, La Moline, the Lala wines of Guigal that use 100% new French oak every single year, which is, let's just say that's very expensive. In the Southern Rhone, they don't use a lot of new oak pretty much anywhere you go. A lot of the times they'll actually go up and buy the old oak that has been used by the Northern Rhone cousins, and they'll bring it down and use that. In Philippe Camby being basically a professional in old vine Grenache, which is what we're looking at an image of right here, he knows that old vine Grenache really does not need a lot of oak. And this wine has, it's less than 15% new oak. It's really not a lot. So it's more, and Châteauneuf, in all honesty, is more about that, the complexity of the fruit flavor in the old vines, rather than kind of layering it over with some expensive oak. So, yeah.
I think that was a very apt point, Mark. I think also one of the great things about Châteauneuf du Pape is because they do get so much natural ripeness, and because of the grapes that are grown, they naturally have the texture and the character where they don't really need that huge amount and that huge whack of oak to allow it to really soak into the wine. And there was a really interesting quote that I heard while I was working in the UK. And when Chateauneuf du Pape was first being formed, they approached a lawyer, and the lawyer was also a winemaker. And I would attempt to pronounce his name, but I think no one really wants to hear that attempt. And you know, he said, "I will fight for you to get this sorted," essentially in some way in French. But he said that you need to conduct yourself with elegance and integrity. And I always find that the best Chateauneuf du Pape wines are just like that. And I think that's how Philippe Cambie has made his name, because his wines have an elegance to them, and because he is not changing the flavor by needing to use a huge amount of new oak from somewhere different. It's one of the reasons why he has always been so acclaimed by critics all over the world.
Okay.
Amazing.
I think
Amazing.
we're gonna have to move on from this one. As
Mark,
Luke pointed out,
sorry, we've got a couple of questions in, and I'd love to get them answered. If we're a couple of moments over the hour, I'm sure everyone is happy with that. But as we did last week, I'm going to pick on both Mark and Michael to do kind of 20-second answers to get some of these ones. So firstly, from the bottom, Francesco, amazing question. 15.5% alcohol, is that typical for a Chateauneuf?
From a legal perspective, absolutely. So Chateauneuf has the highest minimum alcohol requirements of any AOC in France at 14.5%. It is not at all unusual for the wines of Chateauneuf to reach 15 to 15.5 almost every year. In fact, it's almost it's better. I honestly believe, I have no actual evidence for this, but I honestly believe that was one of the reasons why they were so popular when people brought, when the papacy brought wines to other dignitaries, because these wines were so robust and powerful and succulent and delicious. I'm sure that's why they gained some popularity.
And Michael, you're a better man than me if you can answer this in less than 30 seconds. Question from the Buckman Kerr family. Chicken versus the egg question. Are the vines allowed to get old because they make the best wine, or are the better wines made from older vines?
That's a very tricky question. I think what you'll find is that it has less to do with the vines themselves as it does to do with where they are planted. So as Mark mentioned before, you know, where up in the Northern Rhone, it's all hills and slopes and things along those lines. A lot of these vineyard sites, they're not really tampered with or changed all that often. And so long as they had survived or they had been replanted after phylloxera hit, which is a totally different question and a totally different story, they continue to age and they continue to get better as they age because of where they are, not necessarily because of what the vines are themselves. I don't know if that answers the question
Amazing.
or not.
And then maybe, I don't know who's best at answering this, because you guys both amazing amount of experience with this. Aging with regards to Chateauneuf, what does it do and how long could it age for?
I might grab this one. So I've had the great pleasure of tasting some quite distinctly aged Chateauneuf du Pape. And I can definitely attest to the fact that it lasts for a very, very long time. As we know, alcohol is something that used to make things last longer, and it has that in spades. So it's also the acidity within the wine. Acidity is very important in the longevity of a wine, and not a lot of people actually realize how much acidity is in these wines, because the fruit complexity and the alcohol is so robust. These wines will definitely last for 15 years without any shadow of a doubt. Along that path, they will gain more of that kind of barnyard, animal, earth characteristics. The fruit, that initial primary fruit sweetness, which is what I got when I first poured and sipped the wine, which is a real bright strawberry fruit character, that will die off. And it will become more about earth and aged kind of dried fruit, and cured meats would be also very common.
Dusty. That's my word.
very
Dusty.
much.
Which is probably what you are if you drink a bottle of it afterwards.
Excellent.
Okay, well, I think that wraps it up pretty much, Mark. Thank you for everybody who came along, and certainly looking at the comments section there's a lot of love on those last two wines, especially. Mark, do you want to just give us a quick run through of what we've got coming up?
Absolutely. So now, so next week we go to our final week of our Tour de France. Can't believe it's come so quickly. And we're going to Sancerre and 2 wines from Bordeaux, left bank, right bank. So looking forward to that. After that, we've got a fantastic tasting with, in my opinion, one of the best winemakers in New Zealand, Nick Mills from Ripon. If you've not seen Ripon, have a look online. It is literally one of the most beautiful vineyards on this earth. Absolutely gorgeous. And then the week after that, we secured him today. Alex Head, who's a Gourmet Traveller Winemaker of the Year finalist this year, who's in the final 3. So we're fingers crossed, hoping he'll get there. He'll be doing a tasting of his blonde and brunette wines online on Thursday, the 8th of October. So keep an eye out for them.
Now, I should say all the wines that we tasted this evening are still available. So if you'd love them and would be interested in revisiting, we've got a special code for everybody who attended the tasting today. So just get in contact. I should also mention, of course, the French container that we mentioned at the start of the hour is available from Monday, and I'll be sending out an email with regards to what we have in it. So if those take your fancy, would love to help you out on those. Now, for everybody who's picked up the 4th breakout room wine, I'll be opening up the breakout room in a second. For everybody else, you're welcome to stay on if you want to kind of chat amongst yourselves or talk to any of the experts. Jane, I think, is going to stay in room number 1. But obviously from me and all the team, thanks so much for coming, and looking forward to seeing you for week 4.
Thank you, guys. Been great having you. We're looking forward to seeing you again next week.